High Plains Technology Center, turning education and training into workplace success.
Oh, back to school, to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
High Plains Technology Center, education at the speed of business. School is now in session.
All right. Good Wednesday morning. Taylor Burnett sitting in with you, talking all things High Plains Technology Center. I've taken a couple of weeks off. Wednesday mornings have not been prone to meaning I am in town a lot, it seems like, lately. So this is our final show. Final one. We've got three of us in the studio.
2023, right?
2023. That's what you said?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
They all go fast.
It does. And it seems like it was just yesterday. But, here we are. The school year is ending, so we're going to decide to wrap this one up. Usually on the wrap-up, I bring in all the leaders kind of our school, but one is absent. I don't know what he's doing. He's acting like he's busy. The Texan always acts like he's busy, more than any of us, because he filled a seat that he had to act like he was busy more than anything. So I'm going to let the other two, one's kind of introduce himself. He's kind of got that voice that is recognizable, which is good because you don't want the face that is recognizable that comes along with that voice.
Face for radio. Is what
yeah, exactly. Face for radio. Why do you think we have a radio show and not a
TV show?
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead, Mr. Holt.
Barclay Holt, Superintendent at High Plains.
And
hi, everyone.
Get in there to the microphone.
Hi, everyone. Vickie Hunter, CFO.
All right. So we brought these two along. We're going to talk about just some different things, the year-end wrap-up. We've had a ton of things going on. I know Katie, did a great job filling in and everything and keeping everybody abreast of the situation that's going on out there. But we figured we'd do a wrap-up and bring Vickie in to talk about that financial piece as well, since this has been kind of our first year with Beaver County and all that situation and how the State Department has helped out tremendously in making everything roll. But Barclay, looking back at things, what do you think the number one thing 2025 has been? I know you've been on and probably talked about it. I
think just our growth probably overall has been pretty astounding in terms of we've not only Beaver County, but just other things that have happened throughout the year and course of, whether you talk about the academic year or the entire school year so far, it's just been kind of wild.
Yeah. It's, the cool thing is we got to leave here pretty early because the Special Olympics send-off is happening as well. It's
at 4:00.
Yeah, it's going to be, sometime. Yeah. I need to read an email. Yeah. Actually, I read emails. I just need to remember emails.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, you're doing one better than someone I know.
Yeah. So, Vickie, what do you think has been the number one thing? That was really a shot in the dark, shot across the bow to our leader over there. That could be a whole show, couldn't it? How many emails a year does Barclay read? What do you think?
No more than I have to.
The over-under would be about...
Right, yes.
10 a month?
Maybe.
Yes,
10 a month?
Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
They all get read by a staff.
Well, they all do get read by staff.
Absolutely, death by email. It's worse than the U.S. Postal Service in terms of...
But, I talked... It's funny. Boy, we are really digressing on our last show, but I was talking to someone about this. Jenny stopped me in the hall, and she hates email, as you well know. And it's because I feel like you're the same way as I am, as Jenny is as well. We prefer that face-to-face communication. That Gen X side of us really does. Now, I will say, number two form of communication with me after face-to-face, what do you think that would be? Email. Yours is probably texting, though.
Absolutely.
Or you like the phone, though, also. Pick up the phone.
I'll just talk to you.
Yeah.
Novel thought, huh?
It is a novel thought.
Yep.
That's probably my least form of communication when it comes down to
What about texting Mr. Burnett after certain hours?
After 9 o'clock.
Okay, let's move on to the next.
No fly zone. Okay. So, Vickie, what would be your number one thing that you would like to say was the biggest thing at 2024-2025 school year for you?
I think we've just all been so excited about the growth and the potential, all the parameters that are in place right now. That where we're headed. I mean, we're all excited about not only Beaver County expansion and any other ones, and just the growth in that area, and then just for our full-time enrollment and part-time enrollment. I mean, short-term enrollment, business enrollment. We've just been excited for that expansion.
People probably don't understand, and you wouldn't unless you saw it on paper. But like our population we serve is so much smaller per capita than the rest of the state and the other tech centers, and then our numbers, how we rank at such a high rate, whether it be a percentage of serving and or like our business and industry numbers and stuff of how big that is and where we stand up at the top of the, I guess, like a better term, our association, but all 29 tech centers, we lead in that. And we do that with a pretty lean staff as compared across the state as well, because, I mean, we don't have very many people that they just don't. We lead them, so they don't double us, and a lot of them 10 times our size in terms of the big schools in the city area.
And that's what I love, you talk about you call it retention rate and attrition rate on the daytime side.
The saturation.
Yes. There's a bunch of rates there.
Yeah, but our saturation rate in terms of we get about, we're over 50%, give or take, probably in this year will be on the amount of kids that come from our juniors and seniors, and the statewide average is probably in the low 20s. So we really dominate on that deal. And then, I mean, on your side of the fence, we set number 2, number 3 all the time in terms of numbers, depending on how you want to look at that. Well, that's just crazy in terms of the amount of the staffing that we have, and then obviously just available of that out there. There's not as much here to go get. So,
and it is neat to sit back and see what we kind of do on both sides of the house with the staff that we do things with as well. And a lot of people have adjunct instructors. We have a couple of them. I don't believe in adjunct instructors a lot of times, and I know you don't as well, because it's better when we have control of them and the ability to hold their feet a little bit to the fire. And it is neat to see what we kind of do, and kudos to all our staff, really all around the building. It's just,
we say that all the time, T, and it needs to be said again. So those people,
and it's being recorded as well, and it'll be out on the Book of Face.
Exactly,
also.
and it needs to be heard that. I mean, I say it all the time that the person that they meet, the most important person at High Plains is the person that they first come in contact with when they come in the door, and you never know who that's going to be. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what you do out there. I tell everybody, I said everybody here is in a leadership role at some level and needs to approach it that way.
Everybody's a customer.
Yep.
And that's what when it starts with Anita and it goes all the way down to everybody. Everybody's a customer who walks in that door. And if you don't feel that way, then you can hit the doors the way I feel a lot of times.
I think that's what makes this time of year kind of fun for me and Vickie, and it is when we have to kind of dig in. We've obviously got some building projects happening with the Alexander post-secondary training deal. There's a possibility there down the road of building onto it and kind of building down that focal point, if for lack of a better term. But then what we're doing with construction, welding, diesel building that people will start seeing by the end of the summer, that's going to pop up out there probably along 34th facing the east. But that's the big stuff that happens that are visible. But at this time of year, we start trying to focus on, okay, what are our dollars like? What's our valuation look like? What does it look like that we're going to end up with next year? And then where do you reassign that money or realign it to best serve our kids and try to take care of our area? That's just where we sit, and that's what we try to do. And so it takes a lot of hours in there in the office with the door closed this time of year. But Vickie does a marvelous job of minimizing that and having a lot of stuff prepared. And she probably needs to talk about that, just a little bit of what it takes at the end of the year, trying to not only spend our money from this fiscal year, but then getting prepared. And that all happens on the turn of a dime on the end of June. But kind of talk about that, Vickie.
Well, I think first and foremost what you were talking about was we're so excited about our 65 – in August we'll have 65 full-time employees for all of our counties that we serve. And we'll jump over backwards if we need to help them and get them in place. But yes, at the end of the year, we definitely are. We all year, but we're good. Try to be as best as we can stewards of the taxpayer dollars. That's our first and foremost on the top of the list of what we are going to do with those tax dollars and how we're going to spend it and what we're going to do.
Which is a moving number a lot, too. I mean, especially when it comes down to the end of the year. Talk about that process, like Barclay kind of said, with there's only so much carryover. Everybody looks at carryover. There's also spend down, and we got to figure things out and get ready and not put ourselves in a financially bad situation.
On the front side, we budget that money, and then at the end of the year, there's some of that obviously we hold into quasi what you'd call savings throughout the year to make sure we can get to the end of the year and get some things done. But then at the end of this time, when me and Vickie are sitting there, we're trying to figure out, okay, what does it look like? And when you add employees, you have to have enough money to operate through December. And so you want to, people, it's sometimes interesting where people want to get on carryover and get hard on that. There's been some legislation out there on that. But our carryover is what we exist on until December. And we do our dead level best to get to as close to that number because we want all that money that's coming in from the taxpayers to go to the students as best we can.
And explain why December, Vickie.
Our taxpayer dollars don't start rolling in. The new dollars, the new ad valorem, we'll start getting those checks from all of our counties in January, the first week in January. And once everybody, thank you, pays their property taxes.
Which, when you think about it, folks, that's the funniest thing. It was one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around when I first came into the school business. But our fiscal year ends in the end of June, starts in the beginning of July, but that money doesn't really roll in until January. It can make for some interesting times.
Absolutely, and so when you see those carryover numbers from schools, it's kind of smoke and mirrors in some ways.
Not kind of.
It is. Yeah, it is, and so we just try to best estimate that, and then you never know what you're going to have happen. In our world with training and stuff that you do on your side, Taylor, you're way familiar with this. There's things that pop up, and just like there can be. Taylor handles all the technology stuff, and technology anymore is none of it is a 5-digit number. It's all a 6-digit number when it comes across. So anyway, it's just crazy how that works anymore. And that's been a huge change I've seen in my 30 years. Is that computers 30 years ago, you bought them and they were in a classroom in a computer lab, and now they're at everybody's disposal in every classroom.
No question. And, in all those service agreements is what you're talking about. Yeah. I know you love it when all those POs come through.
Especially when all those service agreements and a lot of the computer purchases that we do are not tangible.
Right.
So
a lot of technology.
That's come a long ways.
Talking about service agreements, and that seems to be the way of the world is we used to buy software. Well, now we got service agreements. Well, there's nothing that you can put your hands on as to what that is.
No.
But it is what it is. Taylor said, "Who knows what the cloud is?" I've heard him say that, and that's the truth. That's what we live in all the time. So that's been a change.
Nobody understands the cloud.
Nobody understands the cloud, and so, but no, we're excited about where it's headed and what we're coming up with, and the plan, and it's always a little different. But the mission is to try to build up Northwest Oklahoma at the end of the day.
Well, and I think to tee off of what Barclay just said, if Taylor could speak to the economic impact that what we've done this past year, how that affects our communities. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, it does feel good because, that's what we talk about all the time is the people that are coming in for training. It's not just wind, it's oil and gas, it's industrial that are coming in, staying in our town, spending local dollars. I always say all the time, yes, we love that we are all the above energy training and that form, because if you go around town and you ask, hey, if you go to Longshots, you go to Pollyanna, you go to Hector's, you go to Romero's, you go to Luna's, you ask them, and other places, if you ask them, hey, how many wind shirts and how many wind industry people do you see in town? It's a lot, and we're bringing, they're spending money. They're spending 10 days at our community, and they're getting to love the community. It's funny, everybody that complains about it are the ones that, live here a lot of times, but the ones that come in and get to see it during the good times love it and want to come back. And it is pretty neat.
It's better than even like a college town because our folks are here all year long.
Yes, all year long. You're right. And we don't see the influx.
We hear that a lot where, you don't have anything going in the summer.
Whoa. That's our busiest 2 months.
That's our busiest 2 months.
And we tell kids all the time and students that and I talk about staff, that they're the best marketing tool we got.
No question. Word of mouth.
Yep.
That's what's changed a lot with the LPN and the WIN program and our daytime students. I totally agree.
Yep.
So, yeah. All right. Well, we will see everybody in 2025. Once again, it's been a fun year. Not until,
Why don't you get
August.
Vickie back more often?
I know. We
really
actually
good at
we made her
this.
speak a little bit,
really
and
good
she
at
didn't
this.
giggle. Oh, there's the giggle. We were gonna get one giggle out of her for sure. So, but yeah, we'll see everybody in August 2025. Everybody have a safe and fun summer, and don't stay out in the sun too long, because especially if you have a head like Barclay, it'll be a bad news. All right, see you in a while.
Thank you.